USAA knows dynamic duos can save the day, like superheroes and sidekicks or auto and home insurance. With USAA, you can bundle your auto and home and save up to 10%. Learn more and get a quote at usaa.com/bundle. Restrictions apply.
Hey, it's Paris. You know I love sparkly things, right? Like stars. Duh. And thanks to Hilton and AutoCamp, I just slept under them. Picture me, serving looks by the fire outside my luxurious Airstream, making s'mores with the kids, while a national park is our backdrop. The great outdoors meets Hilton hospitality. That's hot. Explore all the new ways to stay at Hilton.com. Hilton for the stay.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Welcome to Wrestling with Heart, a podcast looking at pro wrestlers giving back to their community. Join me, Stanley Carr, as I interview wrestling's hottest names who use their platforms as entertainers to raise awareness and do community service. Hello and welcome to another edition of Wrestling with Heart. This is the show where we talk with professional wrestlers and professional wrestling personalities about their lives in and outside of the ring, as well as doing acts of charity work, community service, volunteering, and spreading positivity. We're always about the positive vibes here on the show, and I'm very pleased to welcome back to the show pro wrestling broadcaster, announcer, host, and DJ, Mr. Rick Del Santo. Welcome, Rick, back to Wrestling with Heart.
Thank you, Stanley, for having me back. I appreciate you bringing me back into the fold. I listen to your show all the time. I love it.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. And I also listen to your show as well. Enjoy it, and very happy to be a guest as well a few weeks ago. Want to touch on some things. You know, you've been a fan of wrestling, been involved in the wrestling scene for a long time now. Do you recall your first exposure to wrestling growing up?
Yes. My cousin was, we lived in like a multi-family house at the time. My cousin, we had like, we were living on the first floor. My cousin was living on the second floor. And I was there one morning and he was watching WWF Superstars or whatever it was. Maybe the Superstars wasn't on yet. It might have been Championship Wrestling. And I was sitting there watching and I said, "What is this?" He's like, "It's Roddy Piper." And that really stuck out to me, that whole moment. And I remember seeing guys like the Junkyard Dog and Hogan. And I think Piper was still in the midst of feuding with Hogan because it was 1985. So that whole thing really stuck out to me in the past. And it just, I became obsessed with professional wrestling over the next 40 some odd years.
Yeah, this was like right in the heart of the rock and wrestling era when WrestleMania first became a thing, and so you had all this mainstream attention surrounding the world of wrestling. So not a bad time to get interested and involved in the business, and all these years later, people still talk about that particular era and how it really changed the way we see professional wrestling. I mean, it became mainstream, went national.
Yeah. It was the first time I think that it wasn't the first time it was attempted to go national. It was the first time that it was successful because it was the IWA in the 1970s attempted it and it ended up failing after like a year or something like that. The company was around for a few years, but they were the only true one prior to Vince McMahon that tried to go state to state from outside of the territory system. Vince, though, was ruthless, and he kind of went in and took everybody's top talent and made major superstars across the board and cartoons, action figures, all that stuff. And it was just kind of amazing it was an amazing as like an 8-year-old kid, an 8 to 10-year-old kid when all that stuff was coming out. I was watching Hulk Hogan's Rock and Wrestling cartoon on Saturday mornings, with my G.I. Joe and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, those toys were like huge. I mean, you go into a toy store, walk into a toy store, you see all these figures laying out. I mean, I remember as a kid seeing figures of The Rock and Triple H, and even some of the WCW stuff that they had at the time too, with Goldberg,
Yep.
and the rings. So it really was a hot period, the '80s, with all those figures. Now, your story, I know you've been involved in the entertainment world as well with being a DJ and working in radio. Can you tell me, did you always want to go into broadcasting?
It was something that, in my teenage years, my probably like early to mid teenage years, I just started discovering, things that were like left to the dial as far as like music goes, like alternative music or punk rock, stuff like that. And it just discovered college radio, community radio, stuff like that. And that which I was never really fully aware of over the years. So, or in my earlier years. So when I got into like started listening to that stuff, I started, I was just like, dude, I really wanted to, I knew people in bands and stuff like that as a teenager, high school and stuff like that. It's like I want to be a DJ. It's like I had no musical talent whatsoever. Uh, so, I wanted to be a DJ. So I think during my, I think 20s or something like that, I started a little bit on community radio or public radio and on and off for a few years. And then it wasn't until like my 30s I was like I got really into DJing for about a good 5 or so years. So I was on and off for about 20 years, like doing radio shows for burst of time, and it all depends. And I think around the time I was 45, a long stretch. No, I'm sorry. Let me say 40. That a stretch kind of ended. The longest period of me being a radio DJ ended because my broadcast partner decided to move to California. We were doing a radio show. We are playing lots of like obscure rock and roll from the 1950s, 60s, 70s, R&B. Just, you know, we'd pull stuff, lost hits of the past, obscurity, stuff like that. My buddy moved out to California and then it kind of put an end to the show. And I just never followed through with it. And that's pretty much my, DJing career as a regular music DJ. I've DJed other things like that, like events and stuff like that, which I guess bars or whatever, music, like where people would spin records, like particular records and stuff like that. And that was always something that was fun to do for the guys like us on the side.
Yeah, and I think it's fascinating too. You pick that up, having that wealth of knowledge of music. I can definitely attest to that as well. Being into a variety of different artists and bands and genres. Um, were you nervous at all cracking the mic for the first time, or did you feel like you got your confidence up?
I was very nervous. I'm naturally a very shy person. Um, but being involved in radio, I still cannot stand in front of a group of people, okay, and talk into a microphone. If I'm sitting in a booth, if I'm sitting ringside, not a problem at all. But going and actually doing that in front of a large group, sitting in a ring. I've been asked to ring announce before. I said, no way, no way. I can't do
Mm.
it. Even if it's 20 people, sorry, I can't do it. But I'm very comfortable sitting in the booth talking into a microphone. I have a lot of fun doing it. Uh, it's just a, it's just a blast, man. It's like, radio, and I feel like radio and kind of doing play-by-play stuff like that, they kind of go hand in hand. I mean, if you have to have some sort of
Hmm.
experience in a way to be able to do that.
Yeah, they definitely do. Like once you get your confidence up and you start really getting into it and start, prepping and everything that goes into putting together a radio show, it just becomes a piece of cake. You know what you're doing.
Yeah,
You've had that experience for so long. And it's just, you could do it in your sleep. So definitely.
yeah, I
So
love doing it. I mean, I love, like you said, it just becomes like second nature, so to speak.
exactly. And so, did you have like a favorite artist or band growing up that you really just enjoyed listening to, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah. One of the first bands I really got into was the Ramones. Second band that I really got into was REM, like their really early stuff before, and right before the mainstream break, I guess they got. And I really like still to this day, I've been like a huge REM fan and a Ramones fan. And those two probably influenced me the most in my entire life as far as my musical taste and uh, how I think politically, how I think like a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? It's just I feel like those two bands. I mean, they're two different ends of the spectrum in a way. Is like what they write, but REM is very socially and politically aware, as is Ramones maybe, but they just kind of do it sometimes in a different kind of light, maybe comical light or whatnot.
And the thing is like when you study up on the history of these bands and look at their discography, it's like you know it by heart. You're able to talk about it and share bits of insights to the listeners.
Yeah, yeah, that's always something I tried to. I started doing a radio show not so long ago on a internet radio station. It didn't last very long, but I'm looking to. It's kind of like I was a guest, did a couple guest shows. So the one of the things was like pulling records. It's like it's not nearly as like you really have to prepare doing it like once a week. It's like you get to play whatever you want. It's free form radio. So sometimes I try to do some research, add a little note before you don't want to just play music and just be like, hey, this was that, and then it's fun to actually give the listener a little information, maybe about that song, how they went into recording it, how they maybe the band almost broke up because they were stressing each other out during the recording of that song. You know what I'm saying? Which
Yeah.
happens. It happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, look at the list of bands that I feel like were successful. People still talk about it, like Leonard Skinner or
Yeah,
AC/DC, the Beatles. You know,
yeah,
to this day, like you hear stories about, the Beatles' final gigs and kind of how all the members went solo and everything like that. So those little interesting bits of trivia, I think, really help make a radio show successful, when it comes to music.
yeah. Adding a little note that the listener could enjoy. Playing maybe an obscure hit by the band, something that doesn't always get played on mainstream radio. It's like you listen to. I'm not gonna reference them again, but REM. You hear the same three songs probably on the radio over and over. It's like I've been a fan for probably 40 years or so. So, it's like I'm gonna pull something that you don't necessarily hear. Not that I try to really play them, but try to probably play a lot of artists that you don't necessarily hear on the radio constantly.
Hmm.
So
Yeah. Now, you had talked about last time about how you got into the wrestling world as an announcer. I know uh, you were friends or met with Mario Mancini
yep,
and some of the guys at a local wrestling school. Kind of elaborate a little bit about how you kind of became transitioned from radio DJ to wrestling announcer, because I think that's really fascinating.
yep. I started I hadn't done radio that often. Okay, or in a while, excuse me. I had been kind of I'd recently gotten married. I told you that show had ended. I had recently gotten married. Um, and we were just kind of like a chance in meeting Paul Roma one morning on my way into work at a gas station. He invited me down. Of course, him and Mario Mancini run a school together, and I hadn't really done any radio work for a while, but I was looking to get back into it, and it just so happened, they invited me come down to a show, blah blah blah. I was like, all right, cool. I went down, I enjoyed it. I met people I hadn't seen in wrestling in a long time, a lot of local guys that I had actually known. So what ended up happening, it was just like I go home and I'm like, dang, I'm doing a wrestling podcast. Forget radio, all right? Because I was like, so I was like, this is going to be easy. I can do this. I sat there and I was just like, I'd watch the weekly NWA shows when Billy just bought it. It was 2018, 2019, something like that. I would cover NWA news, but I was just like, I couldn't get over 10 minutes talking by myself at all. It was horrible. The first like 10, 15 episodes. So then after a while, I started bringing guests on from local indie wrestlers, guys that I had known in the industry for a long time. And then I would start covering big events, pay-per-views, WWE, AEW was just kind of a newer thing. Actually, was AEW even around at that time? Maybe. Uh,
This was,
Ring of Honor.
yeah.
Yeah, roughly about that, right? Yeah. I think Ring of Honor I would cover a lot like back then because and I would cover a lot of local indie stuff. And then it just kind of started taking off, and I had a lot of fun. One day, after about 3 years of doing podcasting, after I had built up this kind of network of people, I had been networking with a lot of people in between Connecticut, Massachusetts, etc. Nick Payne from the House of Pain. He was running a show. He was booking for Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling, which is Mario and Paul's school and show that they run. But he was booking something away from it, a project that he was building, and they needed a commentator because they were going to film it. And he came to me, and I had never called wrestling ever. This is 5 years ago, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. And when he had asked me, I was like, sure, why not? I said, you sure you want me to do? He goes, dude, you do a podcast every week. We listen to your podcast. We know you can talk. You talk about wrestling really well. Okay. So I took it. I took the gig. I got to tell you, I had the time of my life the first night that I ever did it. And it's been, and then I've done it, I wouldn't say every weekend, but there's shots where I do it just about every single weekend uh, for the last 4 years. Met some amazing people doing it as well.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely, as someone that's now just getting into this as an announcer, I mean, there's nothing like being able to create those friendships and have those memories, being able to network with so many people all through the power of social media or getting the chance to
Yeah.
do podcasts like this. You just never know. And so, you've got your podcast, I've got mine, and we're able to sit down and talk about this wonderful medium
Yeah.
and genre of entertainment that people still go to and watch and are entertained by. Um, what has been your favorite part about being an announcer now that you've been doing it for several years?
Having fun. Having fun. I get to basically a lot of people just put me in control of the booth. They don't know what's going to end up coming out of my mouth. And I can be like, I swore on the mic. They're like, whatever, like, it's like I just dropped an F bomb. They're like, it's just like, and then I realized that at certain companies, I just had full control. I can just say whatever I want based on what's going on in the match, and they thought it was funny. So, but there's a lot of places where I have to be serious, and I work for a company out here, a brand new company. If you don't mind me plugging it, they just celebrated their 1 year anniversary where I made my debut on the 1 year anniversary because they just switched commentary teams. I just pure Vanguard Pro Wrestling, uh, which tries to run a traditional old school catch can style professional wrestling. They're part of the AIWF now as well. So um so they'll be featured. I think they just featured on the AIWF TV show a match that was recorded earlier, right before I joined the company. Um, so there, I got to be a little bit more strict and try to be more traditional, which is kind of the way that I like my professional wrestling. It's very old school style professional wrestling. Growing up in the 1980s, I love that stuff.
Yeah, and I think too, it's very fascinating, when you talk about the guys that you're meeting from years ago and today, getting to it's really like it's an amazing feeling to get a chance to speak with your heroes. Who have been some of your favorite wrestlers that you've gotten to interview, and also some of your favorite wrestlers that you are getting to see now on television?
I mean, well, as far as like interviewing, I just had Tank Tolan on the show. I got to tell you, that guy was so freaking nice and fun to talk to. He was cool as hell. Um, I've been going through a thing where I've been just reaching out to a lot of people lately and getting a yes as far as joining the shows. The illustrious Johnny Stewart, I just had a conversation with recently. I got to say that went so smoothly and so well. I was a big fan of his in the '80s, watching the AWA in Memphis. That when I got in touch with him, I had been trying to find this guy for years. Somebody gave me his email. Oh wow, okay. And then you know, it was I knew he could talk, but I didn't know it was going to be that damn good. You know, I think it was really, really good. And I got to tell you, he was good. I just talked to Bubba White from the Moondogs in the '90s. In Goliath, he wrestled Goliath. That one was a good one. Got to hear some good Memphis stories. Chuck Coates was really good. I like talking to, you know, about some of his outlook on professional wrestling, getting in 1989, and he went straight to WWF. He didn't work in the indies beforehand, trained under Nelson Royal, and they threw him up because they needed guys to do jobs. And it was really, really, uh, I thought he was really awesome. But as far as like going, some of my favorites, Tommy Angel has to be one of my favorite conversations as well. talked to him for about a good 2 hours a while back. Gene Ligon was also like, man, I cannot tell you. That was supposed that we talked for 4 hours, 2.5 hours made it to the podcast. Yeah. It's like before, like I ended up editing. We talked for about an hour and a half before I hit the record button, just about whatever. I said we really need to record, and then we continued to talk afterwards. So, but he was so gracious with my time, and Gene would still, for like the last year or two, text me ever so often, asking me how I'm doing ever since. It's meeting people like that doing podcasting, especially guys that you look at as legends and guys that you looked at as big stars as a kid. That means the world to me because I'm going to tell you today, Michael St. John called me on the phone because we were scheduled. We have to reschedule, but he called me on the phone and I hung up the phone. I said, I just got a phone call from Michael St. John. I said, now how cool am I? Yeah. Well, I grew up watching that guy on USWA TV, so I thought that was pretty damn cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's about building your brand and building relationships and getting the chance to have those moments that you'll never forget them because they're so personal and just having those will last a lifetime, you know?
Yeah.
And getting the chance to have those conversations. Um, there's something about having conversations with wrestlers that just are fun and it's entertaining and unforgettable and
Yeah.
just really a good feeling.
And if you know me, that I'm a history nerd when it comes to wrestling. So talking to guys like I had just mentioned within the last couple of minutes, it's amazing. It really is because when you if you can get, excuse me, some of these guys on the podcast and get them in for an interview, learning the history, learning the way that they talk about their version of the history that you're questioning them on, as opposed to say someone else's version of the history. It's just amazing to learn of like somebody else's version of a time period, or the territory. It's so cool to learn new things about old wrestling that I'm obsessed with.
It really is. I mean, Memphis wrestling was probably my first real um, territory that I was really curious about learning. You know, me being from
Right.
Tennessee, getting the chance to hear about, Jackie Fargo and Len Rossi and Tojo and Jerry Lawler, of course. I mean, getting the chance to hear about all these stories and where all our favorite wrestlers, came from and got their start. It really is. It's fascinating.
Have you ever uh, talked to Reno Riggins?
Yes,
Yes. Okay. All right. I was going to
great
say
guy.
because that guy, oh God, great guy. And I didn't expect the podcast to be nearly as good as it was because I just asked him. He said, "Yeah, okay." 2 hours later, I was like, "Wow, that was an amazing conversation." Being trained by Tojo, and Tojo was kind of messing with him, having him run around the fairgrounds for like weeks and weeks and weeks at a time before he actually threw him in a ring. He was getting frustrated, but he was just doing it. I thought that was a crazy story.
It's hilarious, getting the chance to hear that and getting the chance to also I think he worked for some WWF shows as well.
Yep.
So back in the 80s or early 90s. Um, yeah, Reno was great.
He worked for, I think he was in Music City Wrestling as well, in
Yes.
the which was based out of which was Burt Prentice out of Nashville.
Hmm.
I never seen. I think that might have been the last time I seen him because I used to buy the tapes from RF back when he used to get them. Uh, so which we didn't have a lot of that TV up here in the 1990s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
We're
mean,
very select as to what we got.
yeah, you used to tape trade or you'd go online to order tapes. Now it's exploded with YouTube and all these different websites you can go watch anything at your fingertips.
Yeah.
It's
Let me ask,
crazy.
how many online subscriptions do you have to wrestling sites, to say wrestling streaming networks? Do you belong to many or any? I mean, it's okay if you.
I mean, I personally just go on YouTube. But
Okay,
I have in the past checked out a couple of those. I mean, it's good to have these platforms, because it shows all the old stuff.
it's amazing how many platforms there are. There's because no matter what your variety is, what kind of wrestling you like, there's a streaming service for it. If you like classic wrestling, you can go check out Parsons Wrestling Legends Network or the Savoldi Network. If you like indie wrestling, go check out IWTV. There's tons of different things out there. And it's just amazing that we live in a world where wrestling is at our fingertips in 2025, as opposed to when we were kids, we had a tape trade. Wait
I,
weeks and weeks just to get that tape from somebody.
I know. Gotta love technology.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, who are some guys that you watch today and you're like, man, these guys are incredible?
As far as like mainstream wrestling goes, I'd have to say Gunther is probably to me the be all end all. Uh, I've been a fan of his for a long, long time, but I got to tell you, like he's always gotten better. The stuff that he's doing right now is phenomenal. Jacob Fatu has always been amazing to me. Former MLW World Champion, now current United States Champion. Eli Drake, LA Knight. I really like him a lot. You know, I wish they do more with him in WWE because I think that guy really could shine. Um, Outside of that, a lot of like there's local guys that I really, really dig. Guys from my area. I really like these guys, the Duke boys, Corey Duke and Algo Nelly, AIWF World Tag Team Champions. Bloodsaw I really like a lot. There's a bunch of young students coming out of the Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling School that I think are really going to be something someday. Jeremy Lacroix is one of them. If you haven't seen him, I posted a match of his recently on my YouTube channel. Everybody, please go check it out. Jeremy Lacroix versus Corey Duke. Two students of Paul Moroma and Mario Mancini that I have to say work on the show. You can hear my golden voice commentating. All right. So this match was phenomenal. Like I got to tell you, it's like these they put on a Matt Classic, and I went up to both of them at the end of the show and said, "You guys put on the best match of the night out of everything here. Even the main event that was supposed to draw the people in, you guys went on second and killed it. Just brought the house down."
That's
So
the,
it's those guys are really I can always anytime I see those guys on the show, if I'm not working the show, I try to make it out to show their support.
that's the cool thing about independent wrestling. I mean, you're watching the future,
Yes.
in front of you, and to see talent that are up and coming, they get their big break. It's always exciting whenever you
Yeah.
see someone that gets signed by one of the big companies. You'd have a hand in being a part of their development, watching them grow and develop and they become successful.
Yeah. We got a guy around here, Ichiban, who did a bunch of MLW dates for like a good year. I don't know if you watch MLW
Hmm.
is, but I got to tell you, one day I turned it on, saw he was on there. I said, "Holy!" And it was, I thought I was happy for him because that was my first off. That's my son's favorite wrestler, my 9-year-old son's favorite wrestler. And then to one day turn on MLW TV and he's on there, that was kind of amazing.
It's always a thrill getting the chance to see those guys make it on TV. It really is.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I want to switch gears now and talk about some of the charity work that you've done. I know you've been involved with doing some volunteer work recently and charity work recently. Talk to me about that and what kinds of things that you've done in your community.
Well, one of the things that we do now with Pure Vanguard Wrestling is they own a farm. Which is a community counseling center in Connecticut. They purchased it in 2005 and made it a nonprofit. It's basically for therapeutic program that they run through nature, stuff like that, helping people. They also they also own what do they do? They own their own mill shop, they own their own steel shop, stuff like that. And they do this to help the community and get out there and force not force, but help the community and people that are in need and all that kind of stuff. And it's just they work hard. The owner, Doc Warren, phenomenal human being. Him and his son, they run Pure Vanguard Wrestling. They run call it the Vanguard Ranch. They're great guys, and they go out there and they're just pushing, pushing for the community and helping people with that stuff.
That's amazing, making a difference, getting the chance to do some cleanup and trying to make the environment such a better place. There's nothing like
Yes,
it, especially, we're recording this in the middle of summer, it gets hot, when you're working on the farms and you're able to, you know, harvest crops and food and everything like that. Uh, Helps, really does to make it, clean and such a neat environment.
absolutely. How hot is it down there today?
It's 90 degrees.
Yeah, yeah, we hit 102 yesterday, so we're
Goodness.
were suffering this morning when we woke up.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, now you've been involved with it though, with the wrestling organization doing this. What has been your favorite part about helping with the farms?
Helping with the farms. It's basically they do it, you know, it's helping others really helps me. Like it really helps me mentally. I love helping people. I try to be a nice guy. You know what I mean? It's not always easy, but happiness, especially the way the world is these days, it's just pure chaos that you want to see other people happy. So you always want to help them. People's mental state's not always going to be there. People's financial state's not always going to be there, but you always got to help, other people. You always, you know, it's good to pay it forward and be a good human being and be out there and do stuff. That's why with the power of wrestling organizations that do fundraising, wrestling organizations that come in and help the community, we're all part of the community. We run shows in the Bristol Boys and Girls Club. That's part of the community for the boys and girls. You know, we all out there trying to help and make the world a better place, trying to give these kids, these families, a place to go so they don't have to worry about what they saw on the news. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. It's an amazing thing to do, to be a part of the community, help these. There's always kids that come up and just say hi. Some of these people, of course, going to wrestling shows, you see the same, and I'm sure you see the same fans coming over. So it's the same families, father, son, wife, daughter. Some of them that get to know you. And then you get to sit there and have conversations with these people, and that just made their day a little bit better.
Exactly. I mean, it's escapism,
Yeah.
from everyday problems in your life. Somebody struggling, turn on wrestling, getting a chance to watch these men and women, do battle or tell a story, and you're wrapped in it. I mean, it takes you out of all the anxiety or whatever's going through in your life. You're watching it, and so it really, it really just puts a lot of positivity in there. Getting the chance to have that experience to take 2 to 3 hours out of your day and just get immersed in it.
Yeah. And doing it live with a crowd around you. You know what I mean? With other fans. You're communicating with these. You might meet somebody at that show that'll change your life for the better.
Exactly. Well, Rick, this has been wonderful getting the chance to speak with you again. It means a lot to me and to my listeners and viewers that are watching this on YouTube. Where can people find more about you on social media and how they can check out your podcast and all the cool things you're doing?
Please go check out ProWrestlingWire.net. You can go check me out, the Prof. Rick Del Santo, PROF Rick Del Santo. That's my name on Facebook, and that's where I post a lot of wrestling reels, clips from my shows, clips that I make of local wrestling, uh, some reactions, clips of my podcast, clips of other people's podcasts, and people I like Stanley here, will make it to that page.
All righty. Well, thanks again, Rick, and we'll do a part 3
Thank you, sir.
sometime soon. You're more than welcome to come back.
Absolutely.
All right, take care. This is Wrestling with Heart. I hope you found this podcast to be informative and entertaining. If you did, please hit the subscribe button and look out for the next edition.